Hi, it's Bobby from Fifth Avenue Cakes, and as you can see, today we are doing some royal icing piped roses on a sugar cookie. I have a little snail's trail border. I thought it would be fun to show you how to do a faster rose than the ones that we did last week on the cupcakes that were royal icing and gum paste. These roses are all 100% royal icing. So let me put these away, get a fresh cookie with nothing on it, and I'll show you how it was made. Okay, to make the royal icing roses that are 100% royal icing without any gum paste at all, you're going to need a cookie that's covered, two cocktail sticks. You want one end to not have the point, two pieces of parchment paper with a hole in them already, royal icing royal icing with a stiff consistency, and a PME 57 tip, a nice small 5-0 brush, and some cornstarch. So I'm going to grab my parchment paper squares. Here they are. And I'm going to show you how I made these. So this is actually just made from some parchment paper, and I will generally just fold it in half. This is what they end up looking like. And then I use the folded line as my guide to cut. And then I fold it in half again and use it as my guide to cut again. So now you know how to do those. Pretty simple. And then the important part of these, and I will show you, let me go ahead and just cut this because I realized I didn't show you. You can poke it with your scriber to get the hole started, but that hole isn't going to be big enough for your toothpick, and the last thing you want is to be fighting in your rose to fall off. So take your toothpick and just twist it through so that it comes all the way through and you don't have a problem when you go to take off your rose. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. So move the cookie out of the way for a moment. And when I say stiff royal icing, I am talking about the peak just stands. That just stands. So what you want to do is with your freshly piped royal icing or re-whipped royal icing, you want to add about a tablespoon of powdered sugar to your royal icing mixture, to about a cup of royal icing, and whip it with your paddle attachment on the lowest speed so you don't have any air coming through. And that'll give you a nice stiff consistency. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start with the back of your toothpick. You're going to be turning in a counterclockwise position. Get it going. Turn your toothpick. Bring it up and around and click over so that you have a nice little bud. And then just kind of straighten it out. Sometimes when you go ahead and do that last little fold, it will move. Sometimes it won't. It just depends. You could put a calyx on that and call it a bud and then make a couple of different roses coming down in different sizes. Whenever I'm doing royal icing roses, I like to work two at a time so that has a few seconds to dry while I do this one. So I'm going to show you my little trick so that my petals don't at all melt into one another and you can see all the detail involved. So come over, release your pressure as you come back, and swipe it against your cocktail stick. Use that cocktail stick to help you release the royal icing. And then just kind of straighten it out a little bit. It's nice and stiff. You're not going to hurt it. It makes a nice spiral. And then you're going to put on your 3 petals. You're going to again start in the back, and you're going to start on your right next to where your bud has begun. Start down on your cocktail stick. Turn as you come up and over, releasing your pressure and coming down onto your cocktail stick. And go ahead and use that cocktail stick to bring down your royal icing as you release your pressure. You'll find that it makes it a little bit easier, or at least I find that it makes it 10 times easier. So now we have what I would call a half rose. I put the wrong side in there. You need a little bit of cornstarch just so you can clean up your back. And the reason you want to clean up your back is because when you go to pipe the rest of your petals, it'll lay nicer, it'll look nicer, and then when you go to put it on your cookie, it will lay nice and flat. You won't be fighting with it. So we'll put that into our styrofoam dummy and go ahead and do the same thing on here. You're going to start on your cocktail stick and you're going to come up, around, and over as you turn in a counterclockwise position, and you're going to come down using your cocktail stick and do the same thing. You can make them as small or as big as you want, depending on what size rose you're going after. If you wanted to go with a bigger rose than this, I would use a bigger piping tip, maybe a 58R or 58L if you're left-handed. They do make an S, but when I'm up in the 58s, I like to use the ones that have a little bit of a curve on it. I find that it gives me a better petal. But as you can see, it's nice and clean. I'm just making sure that everything is well connected, that I'm not going to have a problem when I go to pipe in those last 5 petals. And we're only going to do 5 petals on these. It's a pretty small cookie, so we're not trying to overpower our cookie. I would not do more than 2 at a time, and I'll explain that in a minute. I do want to tell you that you want to start so that you're coming up and around where your spiral is. You want to cover that spiral. So you're doing the exact same thing. Lean your tip just a little bit more to open those petals. 2. Keeping your piping tip as clean as possible. Remembering to rotate. 3. 4. And then 5. I keep a damp cloth here, not for the royal icing, but for my hands, because they get a little bit messy with the royal icing on there. I'm going to tidy this up so that when I go to put it on my cookie, it lays nice. And then you're going to take your piece of parchment paper, and the best way that I can say to do this so you don't go throwing your rose around and having an accident with it is to just kind of twist your cocktail stick like this and bring it out. Lay your rose down. See, it's laying nice and flat for me because I cleaned up my back. And then just open those petals just slightly to make them look a little bit more realistic. A royal icing rose is never going to look as realistic as a gum paste rose. But that doesn't mean that we can't try to get as close to realistic as possible. So just give those petals a little bit their own character. And then set them to dry. I like to let them dry overnight just to be sure. So we'll finish again. And the reason I would not do more than 2 at a time is because you're not leaving these on the cocktail stick, and I don't want them to get stuck on you and you not be able to get your roses off. So we're doing the exact same thing. We're going to start coming down and around, turning our cocktail stick. Release your pressure as you come down to the other side. Come up and over and down, keeping your tip clean, and up and over and down, and one more. Now you could go to 7 petals if you wanted to. That cookie of mine is a little bit small for that, and sometimes when you do add more than the 5 petals on this little of a rose without any type of center, it tends to weigh down a bit. But, you know, it's fun to try. So I've got my back nice and tidy and clean. Oh, not right there. So we'll clean that up. So you got that back nice and tidy and clean. As you can see, I've got a nice pretty rose. I'm going to bring in my parchment paper, and I can see it's fighting with me, and I don't want to lose that rose. So I obviously did not follow my own directions when I said to put your cocktail stick through it. It really is important to make sure that you take that cocktail stick beforehand, all the way down to where your ridge is. If you don't, you're going to find that you're going to struggle like that, and there's too much opportunity for that rose to come falling off. Just try and scoot them to the middle there. And then just open your petals ever so slightly. Give that rose its own look, so each one looks differently. Alright, now I'm going to grab Actually, I want to show you how I dusted the roses. So I'm going to have you come with me, and we're going to dust the roses and assemble them on the cookie. So to dust these, and I'm just using a fairy pink. I just want it, this is nice and dry, as you can see. Now they are fragile, so I would not have hit it harder than what I just showed you. So to dust these, you just want to start in the middle, heavier in the middle, and bring it out to the sides. Now, if you find that you have too much dust, just go ahead and blow a little bit off. I actually didn't have too much dust, but I wanted to show you. And for the blue, I used a fairy blue. For the pink, I used a fairy pink. And for the yellow, I ended up using gold, just so that you know. What I wanted to show you, and this is another reason why I want them to be very, very dry, is what you can do is add a little bit of Everclear to your fairy pink dust, and just with a very small 5-0 brush, not the same brush that you're using to give your roses some character, but just paint the outer edge, just to give it a little bit more elegance. So I'm going to show you how I put them on the cookie. I'm going to take him off to the side. I'm going to first add the calyxes on, and I always like to check in when I've had some royal icing waiting for me, make sure that that it's working properly. I don't have to make new royal icing or re-whip it. So I'm just going to add the calyxes on the back here. You aren't going to see them that much. It's more to attach them to the cookie. And then we'll pipe in some rose leaves. And I'll show you how rose leaves are completely different from like these calyx long leaves that I'm doing. So I'm going to what I'm going to do is look for my center and bring my rose maybe 3 millimeters from my center, so that when I get everything piped, it looks like it's in the center. On one of the cookies, I did it more towards I made my roses more in the corner, and then realized I really wanted them centered. But you can put them wherever you want. You can mix and match. I mean, these are yours, and however you want your cookie to look. And then we'll get a yellow one on. And all I'm doing is squeezing and pulling up. You've seen me do so many royal icing calyxes that I didn't think I needed to explain that one again. And then just kind of play with them till you get them where you want them to be, the look that you want. And then I'm going to add in some rose leaves. Now I'm going to show you a rose leaf really quick, just in case you can't see it hidden under my cookie. A rose leaf is quite fat at the bottom, and then it comes out like that. It doesn't look that great on my green work surface, but it will on the cookie. So you're going to pipe go underneath your rose. Rose leaves tend to go in 3. But because you have so many flowers in here, anytime you have more than one little rose, nobody's going to go and count, or do you have 3 leaves together? And you don't want to make your design look like a little jungle. The center point is supposed to be those roses. So squeeze and pull back. And I will show you or explain it to you, since I realized that all I'm doing is piping and not explaining. Alright, so to make a rose leaf, you want to angle it down towards your cookie. You want your tip to be so that the little slits are to the side and this is up and down, which will give you your leaf shape. On the bigger leaf ones, it is a little bit easier to tell. Alright, you're going to start piping and you're not going to move. You're going to make it nice and fat and then release pressure and come out. And that'll give you a nice little rose petal. And then the same thing again. It also adds a little extra insurance in there that those roses aren't going to go anywhere. So I'll do one more. Or I'll do a group of 3. So here we are, squeeze, 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 squeeze. Come back and release. And I'm going to do this one right on top of those. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Nice and fat. Let go of your pressure and pull up. And that's it. And then you can choose any type of border you want. I went with a snail's trail, but feel free to pick whatever border you're more comfortable with. This has been Bobby from 5th Avenue Cakes, and I will see you in the next video.